So if you're watching these in series, you just saw my Neo motor project go up in smoke. Well, not literally. That's a figure of speech, as they say. Project crashed and burned. But I wanted to make a video on something that's unpopular. It's an unpopular viewpoint, and that is that 8-inch woofers suck. As a subwoofer, it sucks. It's this terrible device. It's dumb. Waste of time. The reason I say this is because the only way that the subwoofer ends up sounding anywhere decent is that you put it in an oversized box. When I say oversized, I'm talking about at least 2, if not 3 times the VAS. Now, as we learned in previous videos, the VAS is the air requirement in order for the woofer to play. I think it's like it's like 3 dB down, or at least to reach the FS. So anyways, you end up having to put it in this box right here. So this is like a 1.3 cubic foot box that we got from the Onyx Audio closeouts in California that was given to Nathan at Sonic Electronics, and then Nathan doesn't like to pay his bills. So I got it. So thanks, Nathan. But right there, 1.3, I think it's like at 36 Hertz. I've sold, geez, probably 50, 60 of these. We've even put some really dangerous, Damien Sandez, beautiful man, knows karate chops. I love you, Damien. I wish you would come back and talk to me, but he had to go in the wild and look for bobcats. So it's a thing. It's a joke between me and him. Anyways, so this is the size of the box that you have to put it in order to make it sound fucking decent. And that's ridiculous. So, because if you're going to do that, you might as well buy a 10-inch woofer, which is exactly what it's made for. So quit doing stupid shit. Now, is it popular right now? Yeah. And it was really made popular when I think Sundown came out with probably the SA, whatever, V1 8-inch woofer. And that was about the time that they were making, they only did like 1 season of work for Scar, and then Scar got smart and went over to China and talked to the Chinese, and now Scar's like mega brand, cottage brand. It's cottage brand. They're nothing compared to a real brand like Sony or Kenwood or Funky Pup. But so what's the point of an 8-inch woofer? Well, the point is that it is great for when you can't fit anything else, and this is double. Like, if I'm peeing on 8s right now, I'm taking a shit on 6.5s. And anybody who thinks that little woofers are good, you're an idiot. Sure, you got, it's sort of like when somebody has just a phone and a watch and shoes and they think they're rich. You're like, oh, you're an idiot. So, is a 6-inch woofer all you can afford? Probably. But, I'd rather see you with like a Jensen 12 than, like one of those shitty 8s and 6s. But, Sundown did the pre-sale. They probably pioneered the pre-sale. So, and I remember that time because they showed the roll of UPS labels. They had to use like a whole roll of UPS labels because they had got in their shipment. And you got to understand that they were selling these for, I want to say $100 or 120 shipped or something like that. And then when they finally got their shipment in, they were doing them for 140 shipped. And those things only cost like $40 each to make. Now, do you got to buy 1,000 of them? Yeah, you got to buy 1,000 of them. And that's a lot of money to come up with. And so that's why they get you to prepay. So they're borrowing your money for free, which is what, Elon Musk does with the Boring Company and flamethrowers and all that shit. So the only 8 that I've ever seen or used or dissected or rebuilt is this is T.C.O.Z project. This is the TC Sounds made, you can tell because T.Lo uses that labeling system, and he did this for Sunfire. This was their I don't want to say group project, but Bob makes it seem like Bob had a lot of input on this, and Bob Carver probably did not have a lot of input on this project. It was mostly just T.Lo, and Bob goes, sounds good. And but this was T.Lo's project, and this was for the Sunfire subwoofer. They sold a lot of these. This was the most popular. It was paired up with this active driver and then a passive driver. and it was in an 11-inch MDF cube. Super small, but able to achieve pretty loud for how small it was. Now, sometimes people don't want to buy, especially if you have the junior, the 6.5, and later on they called the junior the 8-inch as well. But a lot of times you could just take those plate amps out and just use them on a 15. In fact, I helped a guy, he was from the UK, and he's like, how much is it to fix it? And I was like, oh, you don't want to spend that money. He's like, you're right, I don't. And so I ended up selling him like a Kicker 15, and then he built it into a end table, and we put some feet on it, and the plate amp went behind the sofa, and it sounded fucking great. Amp is like 4 ohm stable. So, but what makes this thing magical, I'll get to the point. God, anyways, that's the 10, which uses a 3-inch coil. The 8 uses a 2-inch coil, and there's several reasons for that. One is it gives you back the spider. If you use a 2.5-inch coil or a 3-inch coil, you have no spider. And if you have no spider, you have no excursion. If you have no excursion, you have no bass. You end up with a really great mid bass, right? Which is not what you want. And so I think I had a previous video talking about this. This is the recovered, for a while there I was recovering, but I actually got them made. This was from, there you go. See, it says right on there from PE, Precision Econo-Wine, January 27, 2003. This is a 6-layer copper coil. Let's see how tall it is. I don't even know now. So about 45 millimeter. It's 2-inch in diameter this way, and I think it's a little oversized, but at this point, this was, I think T.C.O.Z had made a few of these. When I say a few, probably a couple hundred, for Fujitsu 10, which is Eclipse. So under the Eclipse brand for those guys. And again, it was only available in single 4-ohm. Why? Because this coil is 6 layers. I think I showed you, yeah, here's my version. See, taller former, so I can use it with the sundown frame or the lower base frame or whatever, or if I want to put spacers in between, I have extra give. And then, so this is the version that I pulled 2 layers off, right? Because there's 6 layers, so I pull off 2 layers. And the DCR actually came down to about 2 ohms. So this is the coil that I'm using for the Neo 8 because we want to go a little bit low on the impedance, even though I guess that's a new trend is people using their Class D amps at like 4 ohms to get higher efficiency. Like, just because it's efficient doesn't mean it's effective, okay? So if you have a Class D amp that's 1 ohm stable, you want to use it at least 2 ohm, if not 1 ohm. The reason I say this is because at 4 ohm, it doesn't quite put enough power. And so the user gets frustrated and turns it up and then ends up clipping it. So, and we're talking about clipping the input, not the output. You clip the output whenever you go too low. But anyway, you can clip on both ends anyways. I'll let some other nerd talk about that. Fucking nerd. But what I really like about this is that how heavy it is. So this one, of course, is the full 6 layers, is pretty fucking heavy. And the T.C.O.Z did it with actually a single soft spider. And what happens when you do that is, does it play low? Yes. Is it efficient? Fuck no. But it handles a shit ton of power. And so you make up for that by using a lot of power. That's the compromise. So, but the other compromise is that you want to use a soft spider, or at least one that's not stiff, because you want that low FS. You want it to be able to play that low. And the problem with that, though, is it makes it very peaky, meaning at its resonant frequency, the peak goes, it's like way crazy. Like it's like uncontrollably resonant-y, peaky. Typically you want something not so peaky, and you get into that when you get into like box types, and I'm sure the fad of aperiodic enclosures will come back to life, especially with Richard Clark and David Navoni's Grand National, where I think they had, it was JBL 12 PA mids as for mid bass, and then I think they had 2 big badass USD, which was their brand, 15s, or it wasn't their brand, it was maybe it was, I think that's Orange County Car Audio, I don't know, I forget his name. I'm friends with him on one of those social media things anyways. but he's like a diehard Trumpy, so it's kind of weird. It gets awkward. But anyways, they use an aperiodic membrane, which is just a fiberglass mat, to sort of create a resistance. And what it ends up doing is it sort of lowers the peakiness of it, and sometimes that's more desirable. So that way it has a more even response. But in T.C.O.Z design, because it's really peaky, you can kind of manipulate it by depending on what you tune the passive to. And in their case, what he did was, well, at least, see, I don't know for sure because I never tested it myself, but in the white paper, they talked about they tuned it to like 18 hertz, which is like super heavy, and it would just make it flop around. It really kind of makes it useless at that point. But, you know, that's Bob Carver. He's famous for a reason. So, typically what I've seen, especially after a recone on those Sunfire drivers, is, you know, you tune it down to about the low 30s and it does really well. So in fact, a lot of the customers preferred a stiffer suspension. In fact, I would use this one, which is just the lower base floppy spider, but then I use a secondary spider to reinforce it. And that's what people liked. And then after a little bit of break-in, probably like a month of stretching out, it would play about 35 hertz. And I think we had one enclosure here that we tested it on, and it was just very peaky at that frequency. And, you know, the other thing is that audio is subjective. Everybody's body is different. And I think I talked about nostalgia, about how you remember things different because of your hormones. And everybody's pH balance is different. And then everybody's perception of reality is different. I'll talk about that too. I was talking to a friend the other day about how the reason why women are crazy. And I said, well, not all women are crazy. I said, hot women are typically crazy. And that's because their perception of reality is warped because they don't have to do anything. And you know, they get their way about everything until they don't. And then that's when the trouble begins. But that's another subject. But I wanted to do why 8s suck and show you that the only 8 that's badass is probably something like what T.C.O.Z designed. And even I don't like that one. So in fact, Robbie was here. Robbie is the one with the DC Audio 15 that I'm repairing. But Robbie wants to buy both these and then put them in some sort of weird bass port in his, he wants to do a free air. There used to be this company that would, I think it was like a cast iron sort of adapter that would allow you to put a pair of 12s and in the back dash area. So like typically for a lot of, you know, like Oldsmobile or Buicks and stuff like that, they had 6x9s in the back. And so you could bolt these to the back area where the 6x9s were, and then it would adapt like a sort of like a cornucopia horn of whatever the thing for Thanksgiving. So here's the 6x9, and then it would like expand out to the side, and you could mount a 12 to it. And it's actually a really great idea. You would lose your 6x9s in the back, but now you could put 12s free air without a box. And that was pretty cool. But so Robbie's going to do the same thing, but I think it's in his Lexus, and he wants to do it with that DC Audio 15. So, and he has requested that I give it the dumbest, lamest dust cap. And he came over here and he was like, what about this brand? I've never heard of this brand. I was like, no, that's dumb. And he's like, how about Boss? I go, no. Everybody hates Boss. I said, you want to pick something that people know really well, but is completely ridiculous. And so that's when I came and I go, oh, the Rat, the Urban Audio Works Rat. So I want to do that guy, or at least that one. So, on the DC Audio 15, he'll probably turn it down because I think I have some spare like carbon fiber DC audios, or basically if you just put a Phi dust cap on it, it's a Phi woofer, or at least a Phi woofer from a couple of years ago. It's basically the same. Scotty has really taken the lead on doing those weird, I don't want to call them modular, but just like the tri-lobe and the quad-lobe Neo and things like that. So I'm glad he's doing stuff different, but that's it. That's why 8s suck. Don't buy an 8-inch woofer, buy a 10-inch woofer. Your options are so much greater. You can put it actually a really decent motor on it, and you can use a 3-inch coil, and it's fucking rad. Look at this. See this one here. This is what you can do. This is what people want an 8 to be, right? But it's not. This is a 10. But you can't do that with an 8. But you can do it with a 10. So just pick a 10. Dummies. And I love you. Even though you're kind of retarded and full of sperms. Get those sperms out. Hashtag handy's not hate. End the violence. Love you. Bye.